You are listening to the Push Media Podcast Network.
This is good shit.
In West Calabasas, I was getting abused. Hey, switch. Turn it around, hit your wife. All right, those were my Will Smith jokes. That is my Will Smith material. That's what I could come up with, because everyone who has a podcast has to open their episode this week with some Will Smith stuff. So I did that. And I would argue, not that bad. How many people have you heard in the podcasts you listen to, whatever ones they are? All of them, I assume, inconsequential besides my own. How many podcasts have you listened to that had Will Smith takes referenced his 2005 single off of his album Lost and Found, Switch? I'm talking about Switch, folks. Turn it around, hit it. Ooh, la, la, la. Yeah, Will, you fucked up. You once were making club hits like Switch. You know, the things that everyone knew you from. You once saved the Earth from aliens. You were a legend, the only one. And now, what are you? You're a cuckleberry Finn is what you is. You on the stage at the Oscars. And keep in mind, Will Smith hasn't won an Oscar. He's been nominated a bunch. And if you're an actor, particularly of that caliber, you are probably deeply vapid and hollow inside. And the Academy Award, or the hope of one day receiving one, is probably one of the very few things tying you to reality that is left, that remains, because those people are so far out of touch that they are hardly arguably people. And I don't think I'm breaking news to anybody. I don't think anybody is surprised when someone wins an Oscar and they give a speech about some fictitious child hungry in Cameroon that they've never met. But they will, as soon as they finish their Oscar speech, hop on their eco-friendly private jet and fly over there to kidnap/adopt that kid. These are not good people. So you do need to be a tad bit careful when applying your normal morals to these situations that you see celebrities act out, because those rules don't apply to these people. They act as if they are the heroes in their own stories. And, you know, not really their fault, because that's literally their job. That's what they do on their fucking taxes. Could you imagine? And I'm sure a lot of you have done your taxes recently. Could you imagine having to say your occupation is star of movies? I am the lead. I am the first on the call sheet. IRS, that's my job. These people are insane. And that's why part of me is kind of like, I'm inclined to give actors a break when they do stupid shit, because could you imagine living a life where you literally you don't even have the ability to have a whim as an actor? If you're someone in that caliber, you can't just have a thought and be like, oh, it'd be really nice to have a corn dog or a foot job right now, something like that. Because if you're a normal person, you could walk around wishing for corn dogs and foot jobs all day, but you're probably not going to run into someone who's willing to provide either one of them. But if you run into someone who has both, you marry that MF. The point is, if you're a celebrity, if you're a Leo DiCaprio, if you're a Will Smith, if you're someone like that, you don't have a whim. You have an urge that is immediately met all the time. Could you imagine living that life? And I know it sounds great, and don't get me wrong, I'd much rather cry in a Ferrari. But still, I don't think you want to live a life where you get everything. Because the human brain, a lot of it, is out of your control, right? You have thoughts throughout the day that you did not plan on having, you were embarrassed for having, just horrific, horrible thoughts. Horrible things when you're driving, when someone cuts in front of you anywhere at all, in line, in a car, someone rubs you the wrong way at work, anything. You probably wish murder on them, things like that. But those things that you wish, those horrible thoughts, they don't happen because you're a normal person. You can't just have crazy, nonsensical shit happen. You can't just smack people in public and then win an Academy Award. But if you're a famous person, you can do that. And it might sound cool at first. Oh, I'm famous. There's no consequences. I can do whatever I want. But think about it. They have the same amount of hours in their day as you do, and they got to fill it. And I would imagine you would be left feeling tremendously shallow inside if you got everything you've ever thought about, ever wanted. If no one ever tells you no, if you give in to every thought, urge, wish, desire that you have, you are not a person anymore. You are literally an animal. And I think when people reach that level of success, it is not healthy because you will lose your sense of self. Because the thing that prevents normal people from losing their sense of self is their inability to have everything that they've ever thought of throughout the day. When you're a famous person, you can fly in people from a village to fucking suck you into oblivion. You can do whatever you want. But I would imagine that would get old after an hour. There are only so many high-class escorts you can fly in from Czechoslovakia. You know what I mean? That's not a life. That could be an activity. That could be how you pass an hour. That could be how you pass 3 minutes. But it is not a life. A Czechoslovakian orgy is no life. And that is some real shit. I mean, I know I'm using the most absurd example possible, but that's how good points are made. So fuck off, for one. And two, I think Will Smith has become victim of never getting told no, of giving in to every urge and whim imaginable, to people catering to his every need and want. And I think if you have that happen for so long, you lose track of what makes you you. And what I mean by that are like the things you don't do, the things you are not a part of, the things you don't believe in. To quote Kanye, because why not? Everything I'm not made me everything I am. And to put some shit in perspective for you, okay? What Kanye did, what Kanye is still fucking vilified for walking onto the VMA stage or whatever and interrupting Taylor Swift, Will Smith is way fucking worse than what that was. Kanye just interrupted somebody and spoke when he wasn't supposed to. Technically, Will Smith committed assault on national television. And I think what we saw in the form of Will Smith, a guy who once played Muhammad Ali. By the way, I have a phenomenal idea for a t-shirt and the name Cactus Clay. Just saying. Will Smith once played Muhammad fucking Ali. He's over 6 feet. He's jacked. He's a big dude. Chris Rock, who surprisingly actually can fight. Little ass fella, though. Skinny little dude. So just the optics were bad. You had a strong, jacked dude physically bullying a smaller person. Not a good look. On top of that, I think what we were seeing was Will Smith realizing, hey, I have been a Cuckleberry Finn publicly for the last 2 years. Arguably over a decade, maybe. This is my night. Everyone's looking at me. He could feel those eyes on him. He could just tell what everyone was thinking. He knew when he was walking up to that stage, everyone's like, hey, Jada's fucking other people. Probably some of them in this very room. I wouldn't even rule out if Chris Rock fucked her. Point being again, I think what we saw with Will was like a baby thrashing around because he sensed he was the butt of a joke and he did what he thought would reclaim or reassert his dominance, his sense of self, his masculinity, his identity as Will Smith, as a man who defends his family or stands or believes in something. But what we watched him do was not the correct form of any of that shit. What we saw was the opposite of that, the worst form of all that shit. So I think what we were seeing was a guy who's been subcucked by his wife, realizing all of the eyes in America are on me right now. I need to quickly do something to hide the fact I am ashamed of what has happened and I've lost myself. Yeah, Will. I obviously Will Smith listens to the podcast. It's a simple fact. This might be hard for you to hear, but I think a couple of steps would fix your problem. One, you got to drop the sorceress. We can't have Jada Pinkett Smith involved anymore at all. She is insane. Greatest contribution from her, she was the first mate on a boat in The Matrix. Congratulations. And I think she was in Don't Be a Menace, which is actually a phenomenal movie, so I give her credit for that. But apart from those two things, all you're doing is talking about the time your grandmom taught you how to masturbate and then welcoming your husband onto your television show to explain to him why it's his fault you cheated on him. That's a bad woman. That's a mean person. I don't think that is a good person. And at this point, I'm open to arguments Jada Pinkett Smith killed Tupac. So step 2, Will, if you're listening, you gotta fucking rinse yourself at the Church of Scientology. If you are, Will, and I'm still addressing Will Smith. Will, if you're gay, just say it. No one's gonna care. Just come on out and just do it. Because no one thinks Scientology is legitimate anymore, right? There has been countless documentaries. But something that I think or whether you know it or not, it seems like a playbook for Scientology when they recruit actors, very famous actors, to join their church and then control I shouldn't say church, first of all, to join Scientology. Then they offer this lifestyle of appearances, I guess is the way to put it, where all right, what am I trying to say here? Let's take John Travolta. John Travolta, great actor, rumors for decades that he's into dudes a little bit, which is, whatever you got to do, John Travolta. Who would have thought the guy from Footloose was gay? I don't know, not me. Anyway, but John Travolta, devout Scientologist, who met his wife through Scientology. Now, John Travolta is most likely a gay man, and I'm not here to out anybody. I'm just being a journalist. It seems to me like what the Church of Scientology offers to these famous actors is a cover, a beard, a lifestyle where people stop asking questions. I mean, look at Tom Cruise, most popular Scientologist. Pretty sure Katie Holmes was just there so everyone would stop asking why he's sucking D on the set of Mission Impossible. I don't know. I'm just saying, I'm crazy. I acknowledge that. And I speak recklessly. But I think what Scientology offers to these actors is, hey, you want to keep making money, millions of dollars? You want to keep getting these roles as the straight leading man in Hollywood movies? You want to not be Neil Patrick Harris, who's full of talent, but is just forced to only play weirdos on film now because they can't figure out what to do with a gay actor? How about you join the Church of Scientology? We'll pair you up with a wife. No one will ask questions, and you just have to give us millions of dollars and your sense of free will. And then they go, good deal. So that's not good. I think, Will, you got to drop Scientology. And I know Will and the Smith family claim not to be Scientologists, but if you look at their motherfucking tax returns, they donate to Scientology. And nobody donates to Scientology at all. There is not one, and I mean this, and I'm actually confident in this. I would bet all the money I'll ever make in my life that there is not one person walking this earth who would donate to Scientology and not be a Scientologist. And I will wait for arguments disproving that. Oh, wait, that's right. I can't hear them because this is my show. And 2, they would all be wrong. Anyone who if you give a motherfucking red cent to a descendant of L. Ron Hubbard, you are a Scientologist or you're Beck. Those are your options. So you have to drop Scientology, Will. There is no other way around that. And lastly, my last bit of advice would be just yourself. Just, God damn it, I hate when I sound cliche, but man, remember who you are. Because I think what we were watching was a dude cripplingly insecure thrashing about trying to stop it. And that usually comes out in the ugliest of ways. And I think there is a lesson to be learned in all of this. And that's deny yourself some shit. And I don't know if that was the lesson you were expecting to hear. But I think we would all be better off if we had less. Not even had less. I don't even think that's the right way to say it. I think what I mean is we would all be better off if we didn't give ourselves things. You can give yourself stuff here and there, things, treat yourself. I give your mom stuff all the time. And she gave me Hep C. But I still love her. But the point, you can't give yourself everything. You can't give in to every whim, desire, and thought that you have. And that's not a problem that's just happening to Will. I think that's a very American problem. It's a very human problem But I think it's uniquely a little bit more an American problem because we have such a culture emphasizing consumerism, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's a consequence of a free market, right? Which is a good thing. Who doesn't love a good free market? You know what I'm saying? Something about a free market in the morning really gets me going. But the thing about a free market is you are free to do what you want. And you should very much remember what you want. Because consumerism is all about convincing you want something. You know, consumerism is not a necessity. There's necessities, food, water, shelter, but like new shoes or a phone that you would use to tweet about the pitfalls of capitalism, mind you, is not a necessity. It's something you consume. It's something that's sold to you. Consumerism is a business that convinces you need... Actually, consumerism is a business that sells you objects and goods and services you probably don't need. Advertising is an entire separate business that only exists because of the first business, i.e. consumerism, and this business of advertising purely exists to manipulate you psychologically and blur the lines between a want and a necessity. There is an entire business built around the entire business causing us a problem. What the fuck is good with that? And I already talked about what Google does with their advertising dollars, how they track you, how they know what color your fucking underwear is right now. And your mom's is a nice little yellow number. Consumerism is not inherent. See, it's a tricky thing because the idea... Consumerism sounds negative, right? You hear the word and you just kind of think it's baddish. It's not the right way to go about it. But consumerism is a good thing because it exists because people have made money now. We have a middle class here in America for at least the next month, hopefully, knock on wood. But in order to have a middle class or have a society where the average person can achieve wealth, there has to be an entire infrastructure, an ecosystem of avenues of business, distribution, manufacturing, entire industries built around the concept of consuming. So the fact that we have such a consumerism culture is also a sign that people have money, which is a good thing. You don't want that to happen. You don't want that to change, I mean. But again, when we're talking about a free market, ultimately you have to remember the onus is always going to fall on you. So you are free to do whatever you want. Keeping in mind, there are businesses like advertising and the industry of consumerism that exist to trick you, to extract resources from you. And you have the ability in a free market to say no. You have the ability to not buy the thing. You have the ability to get the fucking jitterbug phone instead of an iPhone. You know what I mean? You don't have to do these things. You don't have to partake in this culture. I think we all would pretty much agree is a bad thing. And to some level, I think Will Smith's problem is that every whim he has is met. Every thought is actionable to him. And I think that's kind of like the worst example of someone lost in the throes of consumerism. Because consumerism is not your friend. Someone who sells something is not looking to make sure you are better off. They are looking to make money from you. And the thing that they sell you might improve your life, might make it better off, but that, and this is so fucking important to remember, that is a side effect, a consequence, an occupational hazard, a side effect of little significance to the people selling you the thing. They don't give a fuck that your life has been made better because of their product or service. That's great. Who cares? No skin off our dick. Congratulations. All that matters is we have your money now. We don't care if the product or good has broke, does not work. We don't care if we lied to you. All that matters is we took the money from you. All that matters is you gave in to the whim, the urge, the thing. You stopped having rational thought about the decision. You didn't think anything through, really, and you gave in to the whim. And now you have the thing or the service, and they have, most importantly, your money. And then you walk out of that store or you hang up the phone, and you wonder why you bought this. It's buyer's remorse is what it's called. And I think the feeling of buyer's remorse could be described as tad bit hollow, vapid. You feel a little empty. You feel a little drained. And I think that's what happens when you give in to all whims and urges. You're shallow. There's nothing left. Just think about let's use baby talk. Let's use object permanence and concepts like that. In order for you to be distinguishable as an individual, there are characteristics that you have, correct? That's what makes you you. The less characteristics you have, the less easy it becomes to distinguish who you are. And I'm just talking literally. Let's just use your fucking nose and eyeballs and shit. Let's say we took your ears away, right? You now look a little different. That's one less thing that makes you you. And if you keep giving away your foot, your nose, your eyes, your tongue, less and less of you is you until eventually you're just a fucking afterthought. You are a thing that happened. You were a force that consumed. You spent money and you earned money. But who were you? What were you? You were a series of orgasms and acceptance speeches. I wouldn't want to live life that way. Don't get me wrong. I'd like to have both of them simultaneously, but not all the time. I don't want to win honestly, I don't even need more than one Academy Award. And your mom already got me taken care of with the orgasms. Feel me? You are not the things you buy. And that's easier said than done because there's entire industries built around convincing you that the things you buy become defining personality characteristics. They become elements of you. They are not. The new car, the new shoes, the status symbols, they're not parts of your personality. Don't get me wrong, they're nice. Again, I'd much rather cry in a Ferrari, but the Ferrari is not part of my personality. The Ferrari isn't endearingly provocative. The Ferrari isn't deathly afraid of birds. The Ferrari doesn't wonder why we went to Afghanistan after 9/11 hijackers were from Saudi Arabia. You know what I mean? There are parts of my personality that have nothing to do with an object. And I kind of think that's what went wrong with Jaden Smith, too. I mean, that's another kid who had probably everything he ever wanted. Every whim was met. Every desire was immediately fulfilled. And when that happens, you lose your sense of self. And in order to regain it, you resort to things that gain attention or, get eyes on you, like putting water in a carton for no reason or wearing a dress to the Louis Vuitton fashion show and everyone thinking you were Willow. You start doing weird shit because you don't know you don't know who you are anymore. So you're almost like doing the most provocative thing to get a reaction for people to then tell you who you are. And most of the time, the reaction people have to public figures is not overwhelmingly positive. I don't know anyone who would disagree with that. Do you see the slippery slope that happens when you just buy, when you just give in? There is no more an important lesson, I think, for human beings to learn than the importance of denying yourself something. And it is so fucking hard to do because there really isn't much you need, but there is so much available. More than literally any other point in human history thus far. Which is why, like I said, I am inclined to give actors breaks because I don't know if it's in my head. I think at one point I will be accepting an Academy Award, so, pot meet kettle situation. But more likely, I'm an empathetic, phenomenal person. I'm just full of compassion and charity. But to be serious, I kind of feel bad for actors when this happens because I see a person lost, kind of hurt, kind of confused. The thing that made them the celebrity that got them their attention was their charisma, their individuality, their shining, unique personality. And I think once you then are swept into the circle and you get everything you've ever wanted, slowly but surely, that personality, that charisma that got you to that place is chipped away through a series of concessions, urges, and quite frankly, just people draining you. Mostly the Church of Scientology and that witch Jada Pinkett Smith. Jada Pinkett Smith killed Tupac. But don't lose your sense of self. Don't lose it. Don't lose your sense of self seeking attention and validation from other people. And don't lose your sense of self buying things. The ultimate goal here, I think, as people walking around doing things, experiencing shit, is to do it uniquely. To do it in a way that only you could do it. But in order to do that, you first have to know what makes you you, what makes you unique. And I can promise you, what makes you unique is not your new car, is not your new shoes, is not your Academy Award, is not whether your dominant wife is happy with her new backup dancer / lover. That's how you lose your sense of self, being worried about those things. If you want to make sure you keep it unique, you keep it fresh, you get jiggy with it, know who you are, know what you don't do, know what you don't believe in, know what you will not do. I mean it, truly. I think it is so much more important to know what you're not than what you are, because by default, you then learn the other one. There are entire businesses and industries built around confusing you as to what you need versus what you want. Now, if you're someone like Will Smith, you are in a particularly precocious situation because you get everything you want. So it is especially important that you know what it is you want and what it is you need. You don't need an Oscar. You don't need to smack Chris Rock in the face. You don't need to stay with Jada Pinkett Smith, and you don't need to donate to the Church of Scientology. I'm still kind of surprised anyone watched the Oscars. That's my biggest takeaway out of all of this is really who cares? I can't believe they figured out a way to get everyone to talk about the Oscars again. It's actually impressive. And here I was, just excited to see Amy Schumer and Zelensky. But instead, I was treated to another episode of Everybody Hates Chris. And now everybody hates Will. And that is crazy. Because if you told anyone in 2007, 8, everyone would hate Will Smith, you would have been excommunicated from America. You would have been a terrorist at that point. Because you're talking about Will Smith. Ooh! And now, public enemy number one, probably going to be stripped of his Oscar and probably have his career altered forever. And it wasn't going that hot anyway. He went from saving the earth from aliens to now he has a travelogue show. We're watching a man lose his grip on this, on the thing that he had. And he's thrashing around, hitting everyone he can except the person he should. Draw your own inferences. And it's sad. Kind of bums me out a little bit. Because Will Smith was that dude. And now I don't think he knows who he is. I think he knows who he used to be. I don't think he knows who he is right now. And people have midlife crises. That happens. Everyone knows that trope. Could you imagine having a midlife crisis and Jada Pinkett Smith in your house all the time? That's not something anyone deserves. I don't care if you were a baker and you stole magic beans from a witch. No one deserves to have Jada Pinkett Smith in their house. That is cruel and unusual punishment. That would unnerve the Chinese government. So, Jada Pinkett Smith killed Tupac. Ain't really any other way to say it, I think. That's really, I guess, the giant moral of this whole episode. Consumerism be damned. Will Smith, Chris Rock, who cares? Biggest story at the top of the hour is Jada Pinkett Smith killed Tupac. I'm here to blow the lid on that. I am here to shine a light on, via the reflection off of Jada's bald head, the fact that she murdered Tupac Shakur. You heard it here first, and probably last, because it's probably also not true. But Jada killed Tupac. And you are not the things you own. You're not the things you buy. You are you. Because you chose to be, and you should continue to choose to be. So next time someone tries to sell you something, tries to sell you a bill of goods, Some company says, hey, you need this new car, or hey, you need this rare set of gold coins that you saw in a commercial in between Tucker Carlson. Next time anyone tries to sell you something, tries to convince you that emptiness that you feel inside might be filled with this useless product or thing or attention, you tell them they better get on back because pussy motherfuckers get the Will Smith smack. Jada is so bald.